Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger was supposed to be the Democrats' golden ticket, proof that moderates could still win in America. Well, about that. Let's see how she is doing as Virginia's new governor. She is the least popular governor of the 21st century. New Washington Post poll shows her approval at 47%, 46% disapprove, a double-digit drop from when she was inaugurated. And Virginians aren't impressed. They understandably feel duped.
I think that she ran on a pretty moderate platform, but I think she's gone a lot farther left than a lot of people expected.
For reference, that interview was done in Fairfax, Virginia, one of the bluest of blue states. I should say bluest of blue counties. As soon as she got elected, Abigail Spanberger sprinted toward the progressive wish list. Sanctuary cities, abortion, tax hikes. With us now, Yemisi Egbewole, former Biden White House press office chief of staff, NewsNation political economic contributor, former White House chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney. Good to see both of you. Yemisi, is Spanberger helping or hurting Democrats across the country with this?
I don't think Spanberger's in a position enough to resonate with Democrats across the country in their own individual races, but I will say that she is hurting herself right now. There's a lot of self-harm being done. Look, if you want to be pragmatic and run as a moderate, you have to own the moderate line, and that means when people within your own party push too far to the left, you have to call them out. And she hasn't done enough to call out that progressive sector of the state house that keeps making these proposals. It's one thing to say for her allies, look, she's not signing these bills that are proposed into law, but it's another thing to actually come out and speak strongly against them. And she hasn't done that enough for me as a moderate to really think that she's been making the right moves here.
No, and she also, day one, signed the thing that the declaration or executive order that ended cooperation with ICE statewide, turning Virginia into a sanctuary state. Number two, she said she would not get behind any kind of redistricting of changing congressional districts, and yet now it's on the ballot. Current districts, you can see, is sort of split red-blue in Virginia the way it should be. Proposed districts would give all but one to Democrats. Mick Mulvaney, how do Republicans capitalize on this?
Oh, I think they just point out that there's a lot of Democrats out there who run as moderates and then behave like progressives. Look, don't lose sight of the fact that in Virginia, it's very unusual. Virginia, the governorship in Virginia is one of the very rare one-term offices in the country. She wants to run for president, and you can't run for president as a moderate in a Democrat primary. You have to have some sort of progressive bona fides, and if she's positioning herself to do that, this is what you would do. Again, she's never running for re-election in Virginia as governor, at least. She can't run for re-election right away. Do the Republicans take advantage of it? Maybe. I mean, you know, I'm with Yemisi on this. I'm not sure she resonates nationwide. I'm not sure you can make her sort of a national figure like you could say a Gavin Newsom or an AOC. But certainly, you know, if you're running for office and say for Congress in Virginia, it could be helpful to you. You sort of point out if you're running against someone who claims they're going to be a moderate.
If this redistricting thing goes through, then there's not going to be any Republicans who really have much to say about running for Congress in Virginia, because they're all going to lose. But we think about this in a larger sense, Yemisi. You look at where we are economically. Food prices are extraordinarily high, going higher. Moody's, if you're talking about economists, you're losing. But basically they said that even if the war ends today, which it might have, prices won't come down by November. I keep hearing Democrats should only be talking about prices, yet they very rarely talk about prices and talk about everything else.
Well, the focus has to be, especially on these gas prices. I think gas prices is the one thing that contextualizes how a nation or consumers feel about an administration. Look, if gas prices remain high all the way up to the midterms, I think Democrats don't really even have to say much or stand for much. They just will let the prices speak for themselves. I do think that for those that are running in Virginia or running in those states that are a little bit more purple, they have to lean more into the economy, and it really does have to lean back against
Mick,
Trump.
The last word. Mick, last 30 seconds. Donald Trump did the one thing he had power to do over gas prices today, which is try to end this war in Iran. If the Iranians now know they have that kind of control over Trump, why wouldn't they keep using it up until the election?
Oh, listen, count me amongst the people who's not convinced this ceasefire is going to hold. If everything I read on the internet is correct, now granted, that's a huge qualification. It looks like the Iranians are asking for $2 million per ship to pass through the straits. If that's in fact the case, then oil prices are going to go up anyway.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.